Welcome to the official YouTube channel for the Colin Cowherd Podcast. Go on, hit the subscribe button. There it is, so you don't miss any of our football content this season. It has been, if I might say, fantastic. And let's pivot now to the Vikings beating Seattle 27-24. When you watch Sam Darnold, you can see wow. And I remember, even when he was with the Jets, I would tell people, you can put a 2.5-minute YouTube tape together of his Jets highlights. And there is shit on there. You're like, oh my God, flying left, throwing across his body. And his connection to Justin Jefferson, who had 10 catches, 145 yards, and 2 touchdowns. I don't know how you let Darnold go. How do you break this tandem up?
Well, to me, you can't. And I've been hammering this home for a long time. And it's not just Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison. I mean, these two guys are going to combine probably for 25 touchdowns. So your best player and one of the best players in the league, and I don't know where Jordan Addison ranks on their team, but he's closer to the top than the 10th
Right.
player. So the only goal you have as a team is to find the right quarterback. Whether you draft that guy, whether you trade for that guy, whether he lands in your lap as a $10 million bridge quarterback and you turn out to kind of strike oil, who cares? Right? The 49ers, Purdy was a good example of that a couple years ago when they were able to pivot. They made the trade for Trey Lance. It blew up in their face. Brock Purdy fell into their lap at Mr. Irrelevant, and they were able to make back-to-back conference championships and a Super Bowl. So, yeah, it sucked losing those first-round picks. Who cares? If J.J. McCarthy – do they win that game with a rookie quarterback on the road in Seattle? In that environment,
Nope.
in the wet, no chance. And Geno, I thought, was playing pretty well. I mean, that drive before Sam Darnold led him, it's like Seattle, that was a kitchen sink game for them, right? They ran the fake punt. They had to, I mean, this was, their season felt like it was on the line a little bit today. And I just don't understand how you could even contemplate letting this guy walk out of the building. And maybe they'll go, we'll see, have to see with the playoffs. You were in a position, the Detroit Lions are having the best season in the history of the franchise, and you can take them out, right? Listen. They're at the end of their season. You know, they still got the Packers next week. That's going to be a really hard game. Obviously, Green Bay gets a short week, so a little advantage Minnesota. But I can't. I couldn't even imagine having the conversation, honestly, because I would be much more inclined to have, if I got to give the Trevor Lawrence contract to that, I wouldn't want to do it, and I would love to give the Baker Mayfield contract. But I got to keep that guy in the build. How could you look Justin Jefferson in the face and be like, "Don't worry, this young guy. I know he tore his knee and then needed another surgery, but we got you, man." Right? When you're on the cusp of being, I mean, they're one of the best teams in the NFL right now.
And also,
Colin. It's not even debatable.
And unlike Detroit, they're healthy. Unlike the Eagles, they have no drama. I mean, if you start looking at, like, unlike Kansas City, they got better protection. You start looking at this team, like I kept waiting earlier in the year, week 5, 6, 7. I said, this thing, it won't last. Sam, I love him, but he can get reckless. I'm going to read you a stat here. I think this was the 6th game this year that Sam had multiple touchdown passes. Yeah. The last 6 games, it's the 7th game this year for Darnold with multiple touchdowns and no picks. He only had 4 of those in his career. So now, again, neither one of us is denying that Kevin O'Connell is a big part of this, but it's more than that. When you watch Sam on that final drive, he got the you-know-what kicked out of him. He's making plays. It's a deep ball to Jefferson. He ran for that first down. Like, you were seeing the entire Sam Darnold package, his toughness, his playmaking, his legs, his vision, his playmaking, his deep ball arm. Like, that last drive, if you'd never seen him play and you watch the last drive, you'd be like, who's this tough kid? I've said this. I thought his comp coming out, I didn't think he was nearly as good as Andrew Luck, but I said Andrew Luck was a big, tough, thick kid who, by the way, threw a lot of picks. Andrew could get a little reckless. And now he's better than Sam. I'm not denying that. But when you watch him, there's just an innate playmaking ability. There's a courage to the way Luck and Darnold play. Like, they're going to take chances and throw the ball in windows because they have such trust in their arm strength. And that in his career has gotten him in trouble. But I'm watching that today, and I'm writing some notes down on the Darnold late fourth quarter drive, and I just think it encapsulates what makes Sam Sam.
Do you remember, I think it was the second game of the season they played the 49ers, and he threw like a 100-yard touchdown. They were
Yeah.
pinned, and he threw a bomb. And the momentum started so strong early for him. Most people went, there's no way he will be able to continue this. And we're basically at Christmas, and he is doing, I mean, what he just did on that final drive, because you just listed all those characteristics. The intangibles at quarterback are also, I say, a defining separator. And toughness is a quality we don't talk enough about quarterback. That is clearly not a question mark with him. Obviously resonating with his teammates. But I just get back to, how could you look all the good players on your team in the eye and go, this guy doesn't give us the best chance? Just figure it out. That's all these
And by the
players are
way,
going to care about.
this is not a great roster. Defensively, it's kind of okay. So they're getting in these games where Sam becomes really pivotal because they can't. I mean, he's had a lot of these fourth quarter drives. It's not a dominating defense. It's with Brian Flores. They'll take risks. They take the ball away, but he's in a lot of these close games. They have put him to the. This is not like Jared Goff early in the season where you could just turn and hand it off with a dominant O-line. They lost their left tackle. Aaron Jones isn't washed, but there's not a ton left. So a lot of this offense is very Sam reliant. These wins are Sam reliant.
Totally. Well, because they have explosive wide receivers and he's got a huge arm and he's willing to let it rip. The other thing is, like, the way they fell into this, they didn't mortgage everything on Sam and then draft JJ and they have a $100 million contract like the Falcons did, and now are going to eat a bunch of dead money. They did this, and then JJ McCarthy fell to him and they got aggressive and they got him, and it just worked out. And then it turns out, like, just figure out who the best one was. You know, Atlanta's in this weird spot where they're going to have to eat a bunch of money, waste money on his contract. Like, no one blames Minnesota for drafting JJ McCarthy. But once you find this, like, this guy was Kirk Cousins was a third or fourth round pick, right? He was 37 years old. This guy was a third overall pick who obviously his career got derailed, but in terms of size, arm strength, and now production, I mean, he's going to throw, my guess, over under 37-ish touchdowns. And they easily could go into the last week of the season with a chance to be the number one seed. But what are the chances that JJ McCarthy in the next couple of years leads you to the number one seed? One, coming off injury, and two, he was a project. He didn't even have to, he never had to play like that in Michigan. Part of the thing was, like, we got to expand him. You know, he's got to learn to kind of carry us, you know, as time goes on, because that's not how he played in college. Like, Sam's been used to that day one with the Jets. And now that it's kind of come together mentally, but the play, I mean, that throw to win the game to Justin, he's their best player is Justin Jefferson, and he's one of the best players in the league. He looks like peak Randy Moss right now with that guy. So how you break that up? I just don't. I don't think you can. I don't think you can look your team in the eye, and I don't think you can do that to your fans.